Awesome. There we go. Hey, Brent. Good seeing
What's
you.
up, man? Yeah, you too.
Doing good over here, man. I hope things are going well. I know. How long have you been in Alabama now?
So the wife and I moved down here in September.
Okay, so you haven't been through like summer yet.
No, I mean, I grew up in South Mississippi heat, just
Yeah.
left South Mississippi. So at least here, being on the beach, we got a little bit of a breeze coming most of the time. So
Yeah, I
not
was
too
gonna
bad.
say you've got some good access. I was gonna say to the water, I thought, so it can't be too
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
But awesome, man. Welcome. Appreciate everybody jumping on here. As people jump on, come on, say hi, comment where you're watching from. Always love, you can throw in the comments what your experience is so far in your real estate investing journey. So, if you haven't done a deal yet, that's great. If you are an advanced investor, that's great too. Throw that in there so that way we can really kind of tailor today's questions and topics to fit that well. But really excited to welcome on a special guest, Brent Moreno. I've really enjoyed getting to know him over the last couple months. I know, Brent, you're an investor in multiple states. You're an educator. Like, you've got your own education company, but then you also put out a ton of great stuff on social media. You've got a podcast. You have a mastermind, all of that. So you've got quite a few things going on in your world. I know today people are jumping on, really learning how to build their network, and you have fantastic advice to give there. Like, I've really enjoyed how you think about giving value to people, and you just talked about you're in a new city, so I'm excited to hear how that journey's going so far. But throughout all of this, wanted to say thank you for your time. Really appreciate you jumping on for our community. And then two, wanted to remind everybody, like, hey, Brent's spending his time doing this. I know everybody's got specific things that they're trying to overcome and trying to work through, and challenges they're facing. So feel free to throw questions in the chat, and he'll be able to jump in and address those as much as he can. But welcome on, Brent. Excited to have you, man.
Man, I'm happy to be here. Been a user of DealMachine for quite some time now.
Love it.
Matter of fact, met David back in 2017 right when he was getting ready to launch this thing.
Nice.
Back at what was it? Sean Terry event.
Uh-huh.
I forget what he called. Flip to Freedom. Yeah,
Yep.
That's what it is.
There we go.
I met him back then. I kind of stayed in contact and been using the software for quite a while. I'm a huge proponent for driving for dollars, especially for people when they're first getting started.
Mm-hmm.
And DealMachine's a fantastic tool to kind of make that a lot easier from the old school days of driving around, writing an address down, going back and looking up the county records and seeing who owns it and find the mailing address. And then it's all a seamless process. So you guys have done a really good job with that. And it's been fun watching you guys grow and expand and continue to add, more features and updates.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, we have an amazing team. I can't take too much credit for the for the product side. They're phenomenal, and we're always doing that. I mean, if you look on the App Store, you'll see like every 2 weeks new updates coming out, new features, and that listed right there of like, hey, here's what's new. Like, we actually just added last week or a week or two ago, MLS data and MLS comps. So that's a huge, exciting update for us. So we're always evolving and trying to listen to our DealMachine members and guide our direction based on that. But yeah, and I appreciate the shout out on the driving for dollars side too. I know that's something that, like you said, was a painful process. It's been around forever, but that's really like the genesis of the story of it. Is like David went in and he was an investor himself, and was driving around and said like, hey, there's got to be a better way, and helped make kind of that first version of it with a co-founder, Dave, as well. And then from there has just evolved into really our mission now is, hey, we want to give everyone the power of real estate investing. So driving for dollars is bucket under that, and we've continued to expand beyond that. So yeah, appreciate the shout out there, man.
Yeah, I mean, so I ran a mentorship for quite a while, like you mentioned, as far as education goes, and like there's two things that I have everyone do when they first getting started. I don't care where they're at in their journey or what, unless you're already doing hundreds of deals a year, then you don't need me. And I'll be very happy to tell you that you don't need me. Most people, though, they're just kind of getting started. They come to me and they're like, hey, if I can just figure this whole thing out, get one deal, if I can make $10,000 a month, like I can quit my job, I could focus on real estate. And we've been very fortunate over the last, 5-6 years, at least that I've been in this business. It's been really easy to make money. And I don't say that lightly. I know there's a lot of people still out there that kind of struggle to get their first deal and they're not quite sure. I think a lot of that is just probably a little bit of information overload. When you really boil it down, it comes down to picking a few things you can focus on and be consistent on those things. And I found that by far the best list you can generate is driving for dollars. It's not coming from, PropStream, which I love PropStream. It's not coming from, all these other platforms, because everyone and their mom's pulling that same list. And it may have, even the vacants, it may have some of those driving for dollars leads on there, but there's no better leads than the one you physically put your eyes on. You know that there's an issue. So what I always tell everybody to do is, pick a time of the week, go driving for dollars, and don't overextend yourself. Right? Don't go try to get hundreds of properties in one drive. Focus on getting 25 quality driving for dollars leads every single week. And what I mean by quality is like they're clearly vacant. There's clearly something wrong with it, and you look it up on DealMachine, and it's not owner occupied, right? So that's 100 leads a month, and I guarantee you that if you follow through on those 100 leads and you work to get in touch with every single one of those people, there's a deal in there. Now, it may not happen in the first week, it may not happen in the first month, it may not even happen in the first year, but I guarantee you, if you continue to follow up with those people that you find on that first list, and that first 100, there's a deal. I think it was probably around 40 or 50 whenever I landed my first deal. Actually, my first list, I think I worked them for probably about 3 months, and I ended up getting 3 deals out of it because I refused to not get in touch with somebody. So what I do is I tell everyone, go get your 25 driving for dollars leads, not 50, not 100, because you want to be able to start your week off by focusing on contacting those people. So say on Saturday, you go and drive around, you find your 25 properties. On Monday, you skip trace them and you start calling, right? You go down the list. I literally, I'll take my notepad, right? Old school. I'll take my notepad and I'll write out the address. I'll write out the phone numbers, and then I'll call them. And then if I can't get in touch with them, I'll leave myself a little note and I'll move to the next one. And then I'll move to the next one, right? And until by Wednesday or Thursday, I should have had an opportunity to get in touch with every single person. If I can't, I'll start reaching out to brothers, sisters, moms, dads, whatever. I kind of turn into a little private investigator and try to figure out, how can I get in touch with these people? At the end of the week, if I can't get in touch with them, I'm just going to throw a mail letter out to them, which is really easy to do inside a DealMachine. Just mark it as send as mail, and boom, it's gone, right? Set it and forget it. Put it on 3 or 4 rotations, and then go find your next 25. If you just really boil it down to that, and that's all you did, I guarantee you, as long as you understand your market, understand the numbers, you're going to find a deal and you're going to find an opportunity. If you don't understand your market and you don't understand the numbers, find somebody in your market who you can partner with to do your first couple of deals, because there's nothing better than getting paid to learn instead of the other way around where you're paying somebody to teach you.
Love it. Yeah, I love the simplicity, man. Yeah, I mean, I think and that's something we talk about too. Is it's simple, but it's not easy. Like that, that line is where putting in that extra sweat equity of getting out there and finding the properties and putting in the time to follow up with them and managing that pipeline and staying top of mind with people, like going through that whole process is what separates you, from the people who don't have success in it and don't stick with it. So
yeah, I mean, it's actually one of our students actually coined the phrase, or at least I haven't heard anybody else say it, but it's so simple, it's hard. Right. And I know Jim Rohn talks about it. He's like, the old saying, like, if you eat an apple a day, it keeps the doctor away. So what if that was true? How many people do you think would eat an apple a day? What if it was a Snickers bar? Like, do you think we would eat? No, probably not. Like, anything that requires consistency is for some reason or another. Like, we all know how to get fit, right? If you eat healthy, go to the gym on a regular basis, and you stay active, like, you'll have a healthy body, right? It's simple. But how many of us actually do it, myself included? I'm not consistent at it. Right. It's so simple. It's actually hard. So that's the reason I tell everybody, like, keep things as simple as possible. Like, it's easy to get into all these YouTube videos and, well, this person's doing this and this person's doing that. And it's all, they're making all this money and I want to make $100,000 months. Like, hey, how do you get to $100,000 months? The same way you eat an elephant, right? One step at a time. All right. Let's focus on getting $10,000 in your pocket before we ever worry about getting $100,000 in your pocket. Let's just find the process that works for you, that you can repeat every single day, that will put you in a position to make enough money to go, okay, now how do I hire and scale? And that's when you come and you join a mastermind, or you jump into some kind of program, or you hire a coach or whatever. That's when you start really focusing on growth and expanding your marketing efforts. But just getting started, like,
Mhm.
It's very simple. Just go do the simple things that go do the things that are simple to do consistently. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think and like you said, I mean, that analysis paralysis is something that is very, very real because you can look up, like you said, you can look up any subject under real estate investing, get so far ahead of yourself planning, and really just overwhelm yourself with all of the free knowledge you have at your fingertips, much of which is good stuff. And
Yeah.
going into it, people have been successful so many different ways, and this is such an industry that you can approach in so many different creative ways that we really talk about, hey, leading first with action and getting out there, and like you said, that simple consistent action with a combination of that and on demand knowledge where you can on demand deal with one certain issue, or oh, you got to call back from somebody, what do I do now? Like going through that next step is all stuff you can educate yourself on, but that knowledge is not worth anything until you put it into practice. And that's when we're saying, hey, lead with that simple action, and from there you can follow up with educating yourself in the right way on demand that way. So
Well, and a lot of people enter this business or really any business trying to, trying to enter it with the path of least resistance, which it makes sense, right? They'll go, oh, I need to pull this list. They tell me this is the best list. Well, everybody else is pulling it. I'm going to skip trace it. Okay, I'm going to skip trace it. Oh, I'm going to text them because it's easy for me to sit here on my computer and text people and not have to worry about calling them and getting cussed out or anything like that. So they try to take that path of least resistance when really you just got to get out there and get dirty. You're going to be told no. You're going to be told to F off. You're going to be told, you're going to be cussed at. People are going to send, I mean, I've literally sent people sending hate mail back from return mail. Like you'll see it all in this business, but you have to take those as like, well, every no is just another step towards a yes.
yeah.
There's literally not a single form of marketing. And this is where it all boils down to. Is like there's not a single form of marketing that I've ever done that has not landed a deal and has not produced a positive return. The trick is being able to, if you're trying to take the shotgun approach and do 15 different marketing channels at one time, or even just 5 or 3, you're not going to be able to stay focused and be consistent with it, right? Especially when you're just getting started. So pick one, whether it's driving for dollars or texting or whatever. Just know if you're texting or cold calling lists, it's going to be a numbers game. You got to talk to a lot of freaking people because everyone's talking to them, and that's why I love the driving for dollars list so much. The second option that I tell everyone to do is really focus on growing your network, and that's kind of what we have lined up to talk today. And it's one of the things that I went through a partnership division, moved to an entirely new area. I didn't know, but maybe 4 or 5 people here when I moved here, and that was just my brother-in-law and his wife and kids, and a couple of their friends. So moving here was a bit of a leap, especially when most of my home base and my family and my friends are in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
So I really started focusing on, I was like, all these things that I didn't really have to build a circle of influence in Mississippi because I had that. And then obviously documenting my journey along the way, people became familiar with who I am. They know like, hey, if you're in Mississippi, send a deal to Brent. And I'm still buying in Mississippi because I still get people who send me deals in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
So literally I've not done a single form of marketing in Mississippi, and I have 2 flips going there right now.
Yeah.
So your network is extremely powerful. You can make a good living if you consistently work it every single day to making sure that people know who you are, what you do, and how you can help them and how they can help you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and I definitely, again, we'll dig in that whole playbook as well today of how you're able to do that in any market and be new to a market and kind of build that circle of influence. Again, reminder: feel free to jump in the chat, throw in questions right there. I know Brent's been fantastic at giving us a little bit of his time here today for our community, and I know also say hi, what market you're in from. I'm here in St. Louis. I know Brent's out in Gulf Shores, right? Or is it Orange
Yeah.
Beach?
Gulf Shores, Orange Beach. Yeah. Offices in Orange Beach, houses in Gulf Shores.
Nice. We do have a good question coming in here really quick before we jump into the circle of influence piece. And you already answered this a little bit saying that you're already buying, but talking about the market right now, Joshua is saying, hey, are you guys still buying right now? What do you tell people when they're waiting on the right time to jump in the market?
Those who live by the crystal ball often end up eating glass. And what I mean by that is you should always be looking for opportunities. In a market like this has been insane. Do I think there's going to be some sort of correction? Yes. I mean, I can already start to kind of see things slowing down a little bit now with interest rates going up and affordability
Mhm.
getting, being more and more important than ever. But do I think we're going to be in '08? Like, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. All I do know is that I'm keeping enough chips off the table. And if an opportunity comes to me and I think it's a good opportunity, I'm still going to buy on it, even in this market, because realistically, right? So if we're buying at 70 to 80 cents on the dollar, that means the market has to drop 20% before I'm ever affected. And that's, it can happen, especially if you're in a very high appreciating market, like say like Phoenix or LA or whatever. But in markets, that's why I love cash flow markets. So if
Mhm.
you're in, the Midwest markets, or you're in, Mississippi, Alabama, across the Sun Belt, like those are great cash flow markets that don't see a ton of appreciation. Now, this last year and a half has been a little bit of a whirlwind, I think, for
Right.
everybody. I mean, if I would have bought everything on the MLS 2 years ago, I'd be up 20% on everything. Uh, but again, we don't have a crystal ball. But yes, I think you should always be buying, always be looking for opportunities. Don't be scared to pull the trigger. Just make sure it's a good deal and that you have multiple exit strategies.
Yep. Yeah, and like you said, buying at that discount rate, that delta, no matter what the market's doing, that's a safe way to go about doing it. And even in the crash, even in 2008, I mean, it was like a 20% overall decrease over about a year and a half, so a little less than that. So it's a slower, long decrease, and that even in a major crash like that, you're still, like you said, if you're buying 70, 80 cents on the dollar, you're still putting yourself in a good position. So
Yeah, don't over leverage yourself. Make good decisions, and don't get into a situation where you're holding I'm nervous a little bit right now because we have a house we're listing for 800,000. That's a big spin for this market. It's a really big house. I think it'll sell quickly. However, in 6 months from now, maybe that would be a tougher sell. Who knows? We just don't know what the Fed's going to do with the interest rates, other than probably keep raising them. But that makes that affordability when you were getting 3.5%, interest loans on an $800,000 house, and now it's 6.5%. That's a
yeah,
big difference in the monthly payment. That's a huge difference. So there's less and less people who can afford those. The other thing I think that a lot of people got caught doing was, I mean, the market was so hot in '07, '08. I even had a buddy that I used to travel with on tour. He was slinging deals in South Florida back then. He's like, man, I was making so much money. He said, then I had like 12 projects going at one time when all this happened. And when all of it happened, he lost everything, went bankrupt. And, it's like they repoed everything I had. So don't get caught like overextending yourself, over leveraging yourself, and taking risky chances on properties that maybe are a little bit out of the range of most people.
great tips. Appreciate that. Yeah, so good question, Joshua. Again, feel free, everybody, to throw questions in the chat there. So to kind of begin with, I know you talked about moving to a new market. Hey, you're didn't know many people. Can you talk a little bit more? I know you said you set a goal on meeting 1,000 new people that first year, and this is something that you're not paying anything to do. Like this is a strategy that anybody can take. You can really focus on the value of word of mouth and building your circle of influence. Can you talk just like why you set that goal? Like what's the value of that? And then move into kind of the playbook on the how from there.
I mean, to be completely honest, like people want to help you, right? Like generally speaking, people want to help you, especially your friends, your family, and people in your circle. However, if they can't help you if they don't know how to help you or know what it is exactly that you do. So that's one of the reasons why, like, you see all these chairs and all behind me. We have a 1,400. Like, I don't need an office space. I wanted an office space simply because I wanted to have a space for where I could hold meetups and meet people, so I could become top of mind with others, so they know, especially realtors and other investors. I mean, I've gotten private money from these meetups at 8 to 9%. I mean, there's all these opportunities that are out there that you just don't know until you meet the right person. So you literally could be one connection away from having all the private money that you could ever want or need. You could be one connection away from one realtor who's like, oh, I've got, this house they're facing foreclosure. It's in really rough shape. They don't know what they're going to do with it. I don't know what to do with it. Can you help? Sure. That's happened from these meetups, from my circle of influence, doing a monthly newsletter. So I'm staying top of mind with everyone on what it is I'm doing, what's going on with me. And I get a lot of great responses from it. So meeting 1,000 people just means that's 1,000 people that every single day, if they come across the right opportunity, they know, hey, call Brent. That's exactly what he does. And that not only works for this business, it works for every business. I actually did a authority challenge about a year ago. We had several hundred people come through there, and one of them was a cleaning service. They do condo cleaning for short-term rentals. And her revenue just from taking those strategies that I taught literally jumped almost triple in the last year, where she was doing 30 to 40 cleanings every single month. She's now doing like 300 cleanings every month. So she's crushing it. And what she did was she literally went and created a group for local people who were interested in being condo cleaners. So she has an unlimited staff now because she's got like around, I think, 1,200 people in that group. So anytime she needs somebody to fill in, she's always got somebody ready to go.
That's
But
so
yeah,
cool.
I mean, and those things work. Like I said, all that stuff works for any business, and that's really kind of where I started having fun and why I started throwing a meetup for just
Mhm.
business owners. Right? It's not just investors. It's not just agents. Small business owners come here because I teach them like the organic growth methods that I've been using in my business to stay afloat over the last year, but also have been teaching others how to do in their business for quite some time now. There's nothing more powerful than a great network of people who want to support you and want to help you.
Yeah. So I mean, I love the meetup strategy in general. Like, I mean, that's a fantastic way to stay top of mind with people and to always give them value.
Yep.
If you're more is that like, I might be getting ahead of myself, but if you're a newbie investor, you're trying to do that first deal. Do you think they could still take that strategy? Is it just like, hey, put people on that stage that knows what they're talking about? Like, how would you kind of approach it if you
Yeah.
didn't have the knowledge to share with people?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, you could easily throw a meetup. You don't have to have an office space. Maybe you go to the library and see how much they would charge you to use one of their rooms, or maybe you go to a hotel and see how much they would charge for the conference room for a night, or whatever. Then find somebody that can add value to the room, and then just invite people. What I did when I first moved down here is I told everyone what my game plan was. I told everyone what my intentions were. So I went to the local groups. So like there's what's happening there's probably a what's happening in your market, like
Mhm.
what's happening in Gulf Shores, what's happening in Orange Beach. So I went to those and I literally laid out my plans like, hey, we're coming. Me and my wife are moving down here. We're looking to meet and network with small business owners. We're looking to hold a monthly meetup. We're going to provide some food and some beverages and stuff like that, where we can help you grow your business and assimilate into the community so we can meet more of you. Now, quick Google search, most people can look at me and they say, okay, well, they can see that I'm somebody, um, but you don't necessarily have to be that, right? You can quickly become the authority just by asserting yourself into that position.
Mhm.
And maybe you start small. Maybe you go to a local RIA meeting and you find somebody you really like that you enjoyed speaking, or maybe you met somebody you felt like had a lot of information to share. Like, hey, look, I want to do something maybe a little bit smaller than this. Maybe we can get 20 or 30 people there and you can get up and present. That'd be something you'd be interested in. But you should always take that opportunity to get up at the very beginning of all of our meetings. We go through pretty much the same spiel, other than we change it out on like what we currently have going on, but
Mhm.
it's pretty much the same spiel. Like, hey, we're with Cash Homes, Alabama. This is what we're looking for. If you're looking to lend your money at better rates than the bank can give you, come talk to me after the event. And I've literally gotten people, like I said, come up to me and offer me money that way. Um, so I always just get up and I always tell them what I need. We found our captain for our charter fishing boat that way. We found private money that way. We've gotten deals that way. And I've also been able to refer out a lot of people to other people that came to the meeting, right? Because that's the whole point. Is like if we all can work together, we can
Yeah.
all help each other build our businesses.
Love that. Yeah. And I know you touched on it briefly there as well, of saying like, hey, when were inviting people to this, you had some online credibility there too, of putting out other content and you're just kind of an online presence there. Do you have any
Yep.
tips there for newbies of like, hey, how to build that online presence as well, how to build that credibility?
Try to get on as my very first podcast I did. I just did my first deal, and I literally messaged the podcast host saying, "Hey, really enjoy your podcast. You had a friend of mine on. However, there's not a lot of perspective on what it's like being a new person. If you're interested, I'd love to share like how I landed my first deal, and we could talk through the numbers and all that stuff." They replied back, it's like, yeah, I think that'd be great. We don't have a lot of people who are, just getting started, who, can share their experience on what it was like getting that first deal. And that kind of propelled me into more people finding out who I am. Obviously, I created a small little group. Again, it doesn't have to be a big group, but start something, right? It's not about how many members you have in your group. It's about how many people are paying attention to what it is you have to say. And everyone has a voice and everyone has something to say. So, and don't be afraid of. One thing I've learned over the years, and especially, I have my wife to credit a lot of it. She's the type of person, like, you never have to worry about where you stand with her. You either love her or you hate her. There's no really in between. But she doesn't care. And that took a long time for me to get over, because I grew up in a very conservative, like, don't speak out, don't cause a stir.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly and truly, is like, everyone has a tribe and you get to choose your vibe, right? So choose your vibe, find your tribe. Right? You can, anything that you enjoy, there's thousands of other people who also enjoy it, and that's what the power of the internet is.
Great model.
I mean,
yeah.
Over 100,000 people bought the Pontiac Aztek. Now it's before the iPhone was ever even invented. That's the ugliest car ever.
That's a good point. If they can make it, then you can find anybody.
Yeah. If they can sell over 100,000 Pontiac Azteks, I'm pretty sure that you have something to share that other people also enjoy. I don't care what it is. It may not even be real estate.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Real estate's awesome. I think I've kind of backed away from building a massive operation to, like, I'm just taking what comes to me naturally, doing a little bit of PPC, a little bit of Facebook, but networking mostly. And then I'm focusing on things that I enjoy, like building a charter fishing business or spending time with my wife. Because honestly and truly, like, once you understand the power of real estate and how to place your money correctly within the right properties,
Mm-hmm.
it just keeps perpetuating itself. It's just compounding over and over and over and over. And I kind of grew from humble beginnings. Like, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. So, like, for me, it's like I told my wife the other day, we we're sitting out on our pier, and I was like, if nothing changes and everything stays the same for the rest of our lives, like, I'm pretty freaking happy. Like, I don't need much else. And we both kind of agreed. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to sit back and just not do anything, but I'm going to focus on things that I enjoy. And most of the things that I enjoy is like holding these meetups, teaching people how to grow their business. And I've been able to even squeeze in some equity of people by helping them and doing some consulting, like, of their businesses. Like, there's all these ways to make money that if you find some enjoyment in doing it, that's what you should do. Real estate is great. I think you should always invest in real estate. But if you don't love this and you're not going to be passionate about it, and you're not going to be literally obsessed with learning real estate and how to grow your wealth, then you probably shouldn't do it, because if it's not for you, then it's okay. There's other ways to go make money. Just know that real estate's a way to go put your money in a safe place that can shelter it from taxes.
Yep. Yeah, that's a fantastic mindset and approach to have, Brent. So, great question here. Elise jumping in. What would you suggest to introverts who are just starting out and already have, hold on, let me see here, who already have a hard time going to a large group, let alone talking to individuals about something brand new too? So that's a great question. I'm sure we have plenty of people who fall in that bucket.
She is not going to believe me, but I am very much an introvert. I'm not a large crowds kind of people. It takes a little bit for me to loosen up. Now, I will say this: in time, with practice, it does get easier. It gets a lot easier. I mean, I get up every single month now and talk. There's usually around 40 or 50 people that come into our office for our meetups and speak to them. Usually about half the rooms repeats, the other half's, new people that hadn't been here before. It's not easy, right? But if you find something that, the one thing I feel really, really comfortable talking about is marketing and real estate, right? Because I've spent enough time, money, energy on learning it, and to where I feel comfortable talking about it, and I enjoy talking about it, to the point to where I can't hardly go on vacation without talking to somebody about real estate or marketing. And the wife's over there like, we're on vacation, we're not working. I was like, I can't help it. This is what I enjoy. But, like, small talk and stuff like that, those things aren't, I struggle with those. I was always the kid when all the family came over for, a Sunday lunch after church. I was hiding in my room because I didn't want to talk to everybody. So I get it. It is a little difficult. The one thing I'll have to tell you is, like, you have to learn to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's with anything that you do. Because if you're not doing things that make you uncomfortable, then you're not growing. You're just complacent.
Yep. Very much so. Yeah.
Get out of your shell.
Yeah, that's great. That's one thing I've loved. I mean, I had a marketing background as well, and then been a deal machine for almost 2 years now, and have really enjoyed exactly what you said. Like the more I do, that's uncomfortable, the more I'm learning and growing and enjoying it. So, um,
I don't know the first freaking thing about running a deep sea fishing charter. I have no idea, but I'm learning.
we're gonna figure it out. There we go.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds
And
fun.
I guarantee you it'll make six figures in the first year.
Love it, man. Um, all right. Here's a really good question as well. Jumping over to the driving for dollar side, because you talked about that's something that you teach. Obviously, we talk about a little bit over here too, but saying, hey, can you do driving for dollars in your office? Me doing it with Google Maps and find the homeowner and all of that. I know just on the deal machine front, we actually do have a virtual driving for dollars portion of the app. So that's actually revamped and brand new within the web version. So if you're on desktop and you log into your deal machine app, if you're on starter, pro, or elite, no matter what plan you're on, you get access to virtual driving for dollars, which is essentially clicking for dollars, where Google Maps is imported into deal machine and it tracks your virtual route while clicking around. So kind of answer the question there on the deal machine side. Brent, do you want to kind of talk through what you teach? I mean, I know you mentioned like the 25 leads and the consistency, but can you reiterate a little bit of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, um, as far as doing it in your office, I've never done that. I know you guys have the virtual driving for dollars, and I know people have had a lot of success with it. I don't know what it is, man, but I just I enjoy getting out, driving around a neighborhood and looking for properties, talking to the neighbors. Right? If I see a vacant house and the neighbors out in the yard next door, I'm gonna stop.
Mhm.
I'm like, hey, what's going on with this house? And they're gonna tell you everything about it. They've just been waiting for the day to tell you all about it. Not only do I meet somebody that can tell me everything I need to know about the house and potentially put me in touch with the owner, I also met somebody who now knows who I am, what I do, and how I can help them. I've literally gotten a deal from at the gas station pump. I use what I call before COVID. I used to call it the 3-foot rule. Now we got to have the 6-foot rule. And that was, anybody that came into my bubble for more than a minute within 3 feet of me, then I had to I had to make myself say hello to them, ask them what they do, what their name, they live around here, those types of things, and try to find a connection. And then find that connection and try to find that connection. If you can't, that's fine. But if you can't find that connection, like at least they know who you are, what you do, and how you can help them. But you'll be very surprised what will happen when you start asking questions like, "Hey, where are you from?" Now, granted, I have the benefit of traveling all over the country, so like, there's not very many people that can be like, "Oh, I'm from here." I'm like, my immediate question is like, "What part?" Because
Mhm.
so they're from the Chicago, they'll say, "I'm from Chicago." Well, really, they're from Tinley Park, but they say Chicago to make it easier. Everybody knows where Chicago is. Right? I was like,
Mhm.
oh, so what part? Dive a little bit deeper. Make the whole conversation should be questions about who they are because nobody likes talking about anything more than themselves.
For sure. Yeah. Great
And then
tips.
when you do that, you make a friend real quick, literally just by asking, "Hey, how's your day? Where are you from? Are you from around here? What do you do for a living? Um, do you like this area? Whatever."
Mhm. That's the great
Simple.
thing. I mean, I love the 3-foot rule, especially within real estate, just because that's something that everyone, is thinking. I mean, everyone needs shelter in some way. So
Right.
it's something that everyone's thinking about or could be a potential referral. So,
I cannot tell you how much my wife is really good at this. I'm a bit of an introvert, so sometimes I just don't feel like it. I don't want to talk to this guy, whatever. My wife, if she goes somewhere, I mean, we literally in our mastermind that we're in that she tags along in from time to time. We have a bingo card, and it's always like, oh, so and so is going to do this, and so is going to do this, and one of the bingo card slots is always CC mentions she's an attorney. I was like, and they make fun of her about it, and I was like, y'all can make fun of it all you want to, but it's literally made her more money than I could possibly
oh, I'm
even
sure. Yeah,
begin to imagine.
that's awesome. Man, we need to have her on next time talking some networking tips then too. That's awesome. Good question here from Koi saying how do you transition from a realtor to a wholesaler? Any
It's
tips there?
funny because I just became a realtor.
There we go. Doing the reverse.
Um, it starts with just focus. Like it's really hard if you're already a realtor and you've got a book of business and you're staying busy and you're making money. It's really difficult to get out of that mindset because that's what's putting food on your table. I literally just had this conversation with one of our mastermind uh, clients the other day on one of our calls, and she had the same She's like, I'm just so busy. She's like, I'm just so busy with appointments and listings and all this stuff. She's like, this has been, it's made me so much money. So I haven't had much time to focus on like my stuff or what I wanted to invest in or anything like that. I was like, look, you either got to hire some people to take some of that workload off of you. And it could be something as simple as VAs. You just really need to map out what you're spending most of your time on and what's menial task and what's task that's actually producing revenue. And then make sure you delegate it. So you either automate it, eliminate it, or delegate it. Those three things, if you just focus on those on every single task that you do, how can I automate this task? Or who can I delegate this task to? Or should I even keep this task? Maybe I should eliminate it. Is it making me any money? Is it revenue generating? Once you can identify those from any side of the business, whether you're a wholesaler or you're a realtor, once you can identify those and you say you can identify those and automate, eliminate, or delegate, or just cut them out completely and say, I'm just going to focus on being a wholesaler. I'm just going to focus on doing investing. Those are really the only way to transition into either or, is that you have to free up some of that time. So the only way to free up some of that time is, just like I said, automate it, eliminate it, or delegate it, or even prioritize it even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, even that approach, you're so good at just systematizing, everything you've done around, and just because you've got multiple businesses, you've got a lot you're working on. You're very good at systematizing how you build that circle of influence, and going back to that topic for the day. Do you have any other tips on? I know you talked about the events. The newsletter is another thing I'd love for you to walk through. Do you have any other ideas on systematizing how you build that network in in your local market?
So Russell Brunson talks. Most people that I talk to have lived in the area they're in for 10+ years, maybe most people, or even all their life. So they know a lot of people. Russell Brunson talks about, like, if you don't know who Russell Brunson is, he's the big funnels guy. Has a huge business, big network marketer as well. Got to start doing network marketing. He talks about, if you want to, build a presence and get awareness, you find 100 people who you look up to, who have podcasts or maybe authors or YouTube channels or whatever. Find a way to add value to them and offer your time or your services to get in front of them so you can be on their show or whatever, right? I take it the exact opposite, because we're really just focusing on, how do I become an authority in my small little area, right? So if you're virtual wholesaling, this probably ain't going to work real for you. However, I found if you're just getting started, it's probably a lot easier to start in your own backyard, no matter where you're at. Find 100 people who know who you are. They don't have to necessarily know exactly, everything about you. They don't have to be your best friends. They could be a former classmate. They could be a former coworker. They could be, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your aunts, your uncles, other nieces, nephews, whatever. Mm-hmm. Find 100 people, identify who those people are. And what I did was, I actually created a little, because I like to turn everything into some kind of little system. I took my VA that I've had with me since like 2017. I created a Trello board of all of my family members, all of my best friends, all of my associates, and I literally put 100 down. And I said, hey, I need you to find every single person on these accounts on Facebook. I need you to message them and have this kind of conversation. So I mapped it out. Whether if it was a close friend, here's how the conversation should go. If it's a family member, here's how the conversation should go. If it's an associate, here's how the conversation should go. And it all boils around to, hey, I just, been a while since we touched base. How have you been? What have you been up to these days? I thought about you the other day, right? Everyone's going to respond back, oh, I've been busy with the wife, the kids, the work, blah, blah, blah. I'm working here now. I'm doing this. And then what's the golden thing they're going to do? They're going to turn around. They're going to ask you, so what have you been up to?
Right.
And that's when you get to have fun with it. And you get to say, hey, I've been flipping houses kind of like on HGTV. I just haven't figured out how to do it in 30 minutes or less yet. Here's how you can help me, right? Here's how I can help you. Here's how you can help me. And if you're not a realtor, you can offer referral fees. Here's what I'm looking for. Do you mind if I get your email address? Right? Collect that email address. So I had my VA doing all this in the background for me. I literally mapped out the conversations, keep the conversation short and sweet, get their emails, throw it into MailChimp. And every single month I send that out. I send a newsletter out. Here's what's going on in my personal life. Here's what's going on in my business life. And here's what's going on, like, with my relationship with the wife. Here's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And by the way, if you have some kind of charitable event or function or anything like that we can help with, please let us know. We'd love to help. And I've been able to sponsor some cool things. And
okay.
yeah, it's been a lot of fun. But literally that's all I do every single month is just send one updated email. Here's what's going on with us last month. Here's everything that you missed. Here's everything that's going on. Oh, by the way, here's what we're looking for. Here's how you can help us. If you know of anybody that fits this, let us know. And I make it fun and personable, and people seem to like it. Like I don't have very many people that unsubscribe. Every single event, I go around and I collect, tons of business cards. We even have like a little reader over here they can scan their phone. It puts this into our system,
Mhm.
and I have a strong feeling that once I know 1,000 people on this island, hell, I could probably run for mayor.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's quite a circle of influence quickly, man. Uh, I mean, I think the way that you approach it too, like, and you've talked about this before with me, is your background's in marketing. I mean, I know you said you've worked at like Fortune 500 companies in experiential marketing before, and you've mentioned like, hey, we're all marketers to some degree, and that's really good evidence of it right there. Can you maybe explain, your thought process behind that, how to think like a marketer, and what kind of mindset shift you should try to take, when it comes to applying marketing to, your everyday life like that?
Ooh, man, that's a deep one. My ideas behind marketing has changed a lot over the years. I think, obviously coming from an experiential marketing background, it's an experience. So that's the whole idea of what they're trying to sell you as an experience. They want the brand to be memorable.
Mhm.
Um, as far as like how I see things moving in the future, as far as like all the marketing methods that we're using now, like texting and cold calling and stuff like that, like at some point in time, I do believe that everything will have to be permission based. Our data will be treated like personal property, so it won't be just readily available for companies to buy and sell and trade, hundreds of times a day. So how do we get around that? Well, Seth Godin, who's somebody I look up to in the marketing world, kind of really coined it back in the day whenever the Can Spam Act was coming around. He wrote a book called Permission Based Marketing. I think that same ideology is what's moving forward. That's what's going to move us forward, and that like people have to want to come to you, have to want to work with you. And research has shown that like 70% of people who go with a business or buy a service or a product go with somebody that they already know and trust and like, or somebody they know has already used, like, and trust. I call it becoming the mechanic, right? You
Mhm.
have to become the mechanic in your neighborhood. Everyone knows a mechanic somehow, some way, some shape or form. Whether you use them or not, somebody has used a good mechanic. And if you didn't, chances are you're going to ask somebody that it's like, hey, do you know of a good mechanic? Right?
Mhm.
They're not going to Google for that. Google's great, like PPC is great, Facebook's great, like it does provide you with leads, but it's not the same warm leads as where somebody hands it off. So like, how do I figure out a way to become top of mind? How do I become the mechanic in my area? And that's really all I've been focusing on in the last year is just growing that organic outreach, that network. And I think that's the way we have to move forward. Like there has to be some kind of exchange in value, whether it's through somebody who knows, likes, and trusts you already, that's happy to refer you because they want to see you do well in business, or it's some kind of like some kind of magnet that gets that you're giving something to somebody that they want.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, like you said, you're trading trust at that point.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, people are gonna, even if they are Googling, people in your market, maybe they're looking at reviews and things like that. They place so much trust in that personal relationship. Like that trust is the new currency, really. So,
If
uh,
somebody refers me to their property and there's a deal, like if there's even remotely close to a deal to be had, like there's no one else behind me coming.
mhm.
They're not calling, even if they've already called somebody. I'm the preferred candidate already
Yeah,
because somebody they know, like, and trust referred me.
100%. Yeah. Um, one thing, and again, I know I have plenty of questions on my end. Feel free to throw questions in the chat. I know the whole point is to have you guys be able to interact with Brent as well too. And I know we have a few minutes left here, so really really appreciate your time again today, man. But um, one thing that I know in our past talks that found really interesting is you talking about your business serving you, not the other way around. Do you have any tips for, clearly busy entrepreneurs that we're talking about all the time who are caught in that grind? I know you talked about kind of the automation, delegation, that whole process, but I think specifically we probably have a fair number of people who maybe have a full time or at least part time gig and are looking at real
Mhm.
estate in addition to that. So if you're in their shoes, especially as a newbie, what are some ways that you're thinking through how to be productive and build a business that you're not caught in the hustle as much?
I mean, every single body's situation is different, right? I don't know the cards that everyone's been dealt. However, I've worked with enough people who have been through similar situations, right? Like, there's people that have the idea that my market's too bad, or my market's too small, or it's too expensive, or whatever. All those have been blown through our mentorship programs, with hundreds of people. Or I've got a wife and 4 kids and a full time job. I don't have time. I found that when people say they don't have time, it just means it's not a big enough priority for them.
Mhm.
And that's true for all of us. Like, we can say I don't have time for that. It just really doesn't mean enough for you to make time for it. If it was important enough to you, you would make the time for it. So is your financial future important enough for you to sacrifice some time? Number two is, like, if you say you have a full-time job, a wife and kids, it's very important to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And what I mean by that is, like, maybe, you set aside, maybe your kids are old enough to help you do some direct mail, or help you, drive for dollars, or whatever the case may be. You set aside a reward or a goal for them that once we hit this, we're going to go do this. One of our students did that with Disney World. His kids were helping him stuff mail. He's like, once we hit this number, like, we're all going to go to Disney World. The wife was also on board. Like, especially once she saw the first deal happen, like, she understood, like, okay, this could work. I mean, I'll be real honest. Like, even my wife thought I was like, yeah, you're not gonna be able to do that. Like, she didn't say you're not gonna be able to do it. She's like, I'll let you try it. That was kind of her thought. She's like, I'll let you try it, but I don't think you're gonna do very well with it. That first check came, and she was like, okay. Second check came, she was like, all right, this is
Yeah,
repeatable. He can
I
do
mean,
this.
yeah.
And then, I ended up closing like $60,000 like in 1 month, and I was like, I'm quitting my job. But no, I would say it's all about prioritizing. Like, you have to make time. There's no ifs, ands, or but it's also making sure that your time is spent doing things that generate revenue.
Mhm.
For instance, if you're driving for dollars, I know a lot of people have the tendency to get out and look around the house, peek through the windows, and try to figure out, and they'll go home. They'll type it in. Well, how much is it worth? What's my max allowable offer? What's this? What's that? You're wasting a ton of time. Number one, we don't know if they even want to sell it or not. Right. So you don't have to feel like you need to be prepared to be on the phone with somebody, because my number one objective every time I'm calling is like, do I have the right person?
Mhm.
Are they interested in selling? Past that, I don't know anything about the house. If they're interested in selling, then I'm going to have them tell me about the house. Tell me how much they want for it, what their issue is, what their situation is. Um, all that stuff is a waste of time if you're getting out and you're walking around the house, you're trying to figure out what it's worth, how much repairs it's going to cost, all that stuff. It's good practice,
Mhm.
but it's not generating you any revenue. What's generating me revenue? Well, actually getting properties that I can locate and get in touch with the owner. So calling them, texting them, knocking on their door, whatever I got to do, that generates revenue. But everything else, like sitting there doing all this research and stuff, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yep.
It's going to take up too much of your time.
Yeah, we talk about that often too. Like, what are the true, revenue generating activities that you can focus on? Like, what are those actions that you can tie to actual metrics? Like you said,
Two
yeah.
things:
Mhm.
finding people to talk to and talking to those people.
Yep. Leads
That's
and
it.
conversations. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
it.
Yep. Love it. Um, Yeah, this has been fantastic. And for people, again, rewind to the beginning of this when this is live or once this is posted too. Brent does an awesome breakdown of like, hey, here's simply how to get that first deal by driving for dollars, by take it 25 leads at a time, fully fully focusing on getting in touch with them, following up with them, and then making a simple, repeatable process through that. So I think consistency is absolutely key. Love the way that you talk about, hey, is your financial future worth your time? Is you putting that in your own hands worth your time? Like, that's where you'll make time to do something like this. So,
And you'd asked me, about as far as like scaling and building a lifestyle by design.
yeah,
Um, I want to make sure I want to touch on that before we leave.
yeah,
So I helped build a 7-figure business. We had 7 or 8 staff, and we did $1.2 million in gross one year. And I actually took home right about what I took home my first full year of doing it by myself. So, be very careful about, jumping into partnerships and how that's all going to work and scaling. everyone's talking about $100,000 months too. I see even $500,000 months now. That's all fine and dandy. And that's awesome. That's fantastic. But I've been in a lot of rooms with a lot of those people. They're burnt out. They're tired. They're always having to hire new people. There's always a constant churn. So if you're comfortable with that, just know to be prepared for it. Right. For me, it was about, okay, well, how much money do I actually need? And can I focus on some of my time on doing other things that I enjoy that also produce income? And I look at everything, every single thing that I buy. I'm a very frugal person for the most part, unless it comes to like technology and stuff like that. That's about the only thing I spend money on. I mean, I drive around a '04 Mountaineer because somebody offered me more than what I could possibly thought I could sell my truck for. I was like, yeah, sure. If you want to offer me that, I'll take that.
There we go.
So I focus on how can I turn, Rich Dad Poor Dad taught everybody, like the rich say, or the poor people say they can't afford something. The wealthy say, how can I afford it? I take it a little bit step farther. Like I go, how can I get somebody else to pay for it? But in circling all that back is I just try to find everything that I buy. I try to find a way for somebody else to pay for it. And when you do that enough times, you start to get enough of a level of an income where it's like, okay, and maybe it is me being complacent. Maybe it is me, kind of taking a break, but like, I don't have any desire anymore to build a multi-million dollar wholesale operation. My desire now is to build long-term financial wealth. So I'm taking the opportunities that come to me over the years. I've built enough relationships with people that I have private money that I can take it down, and then I can test the waters and see what it will do. And then I can either decide to sell it or I can try to keep it. And my goal is to try to keep more, and it's sacrificing a little bit more right now. But my wife has enough of an income level that I'm like, okay, well, we could take a couple hits instead of taking a $40,000 wholesale fee. Let's short-term rental this place and see how much money it can generate in the summer. And if it makes sense, we'll refinance out of that private money, and we'll have a great asset that will produce income for years to come.
Yeah.
I never have to worry about selling it. I can move it to it, and I can take that equity that I have in it, which is almost $100,000, and move that into something else, and then just keep. Again, it's all about compounding.
Yeah.
So really focusing on being sure of what you want is important. Like I always tell everybody. Also, another thing that we did in our mentorship is like take and write out at least one full page on what your perfect day looks like. It sounds cheesy, but you really need to focus on like what is that perfect day from the moment you wake up. Like what are you doing? Where are you at? What's the sense? What's the smells? What's it look like? Like what does your day look like? And
Yeah.
focus on how to reverse engineer that to make that happen. I found when you write this stuff down, like especially when it comes to goals, it makes a huge difference. And don't just set arbitrary goals. I just don't set something and say, well, by the end of the year, I want to make $100,000 in wholesaling. Okay, well, what does that look like per quarter? What does that look like per month? What does that look like per week? What do I have to do to get to that point? So this is going a little bit long, but
No,
every
it's
single week, every single week, so I have my yearly goals, and I call them like my big three for every business that I have. I only set three big audacious goals for every business that I have every year. And then I break it down. It's like, okay, well, how much, if it's revenue that I'm looking to get, well, how much revenue am I looking to get at the end of the year? I break it down into quarters. I break it down into months. I break it down into weeks. And then every week, I focus on my big three for that month, right? And that every week every day I'm focusing on the big three that I need to do each day to accomplish what I need to get to at the end of the week, right? So I set a goal basically for every day. I set a goal for every week. I set a goal for every month. But those goals are based around my yearly goals. But it makes it more digestible to where I know that, okay, I got to get these three things done for this business in order to reach my weekly goal. And if I hit my weekly goal every week, then I'll hit my monthly goal. It's just that simple. But most people just say, well, I'm going to do $1 million this year. Well, how are you going to do it? How many houses does that translate to? What's your average deal size? Like how many leads do you have to generate? Scaling is really simple. What I found is the hardest part of scaling is finding the right people. And that's obviously kind of the reason why I've took the step back of, okay, I left my partnership. We had over 30 houses and $300,000 in like the next quarter closing and wholesale operate money, and just walked away. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go down here and figure it out. I don't really want to build back bigger or better. I just want to continue doing what I enjoy doing, take what comes to me, and make the best out of every situation.
Yeah.
And I'm perfectly content. Now, will I be the $5 million wholesaler this year? No, Do I desire that? No. Am I happier than probably those guys? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like you said too, there's a difference between top line and bottom line. You know, the difference
Yeah.
between and being able to think long term like that and shift your thinking into wealth building. I mean, I love that. So I even, you know, I know you talked about the exercise of saying, hey, what does your perfect day look like? That's something that Trevor Mock over at Carrot comes on. He's fantastic at talking about that as well, and really reverse engineering what, you know, that your happiest day looks like. Hey, let's break it down and figure out how to get there. So,
Yeah, I just had it the other day until my jet ski broke.
yeah, tough to plan for that one, but
Yeah. Yeah.
um, well, this has been awesome, man. I again really appreciate your time. Is this the best place, or where can people reach you? Is that the best place to reach you, or?
I mean, I still have some stuff on that. I've kind of completely been rebranding and stuff.
Yeah.
Because everyone thought of wholesale hackers. Like, I'm not.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, and I know we'll link to every way to get in touch with you, you know, in the chat below and all of that. And I, you know, again, really appreciate your time today, Brent. This has been fantastic. Having one audio issue at the end here, so hopefully you can hear me okay. But um, cool. Again, everybody, thanks for joining. Brent, we'll have to do this again in the future. So many things that I know I learned and took away from this. Appreciate everybody jumping on. Great questions throughout. And again, have a great week, everybody, and happy deal finding.